Hi everybody, I have got the Speedpaint markers from the Army Painter. Somehow, they are set to be released in October and we are in late September now. But somehow I managed to get my hands on these from a regular store. So just to be clear, I have not been sent these Speedpaint markers to test or anything from the Army Painter. I bought them myself. So this could very well be the first completely independent Speedpaint starter set review. And what exactly do you get in the package? Here we have all the colors included. 10 colors. They are not exactly completely similar to the other Speedpaint starter sets. There are a few differences. I'll get back to that later. But there are 10 pens included. There are spill-free marker tips. And that means if you damage the tips of the pens, you can easily replace them. But let's get the Speedpaint markers out of the box. As I said, there are 10 different Speedpaint markers included, along with the extra tips. And they look like this. And let's see, over here we have the extra tips for the pens that you can replace. And that's very nice of the Army Painter to include these in the package. Then we have one of the unique colors, the metallic silver, included in this starter set. This particular color is not included in any of the other regular starter sets. There are, of course, several other Speedpaint markers available, and there is a small guide here that you can open and see exactly what colors will be available in the future. And here I have one that I really would have liked to be included in the starter set. A skin tone. There is no skin color included. Instead of the skin color, we get the metallic silver, and I'm not dissatisfied with the metallic silver at all. I just would have liked the skin color, but on the other hand, it's hard to point out exactly which colors should not have been included. Maybe a starter set with 11 colors would have been perfect. When you first start to use a Speedpaint marker, you have to get the paint flowing first, and I'm showing that here in real time. You take off the cap of the pen, turn it around and push the tip of the marker down like this. You can shake the pen first, pump a bit, and then the paint will slowly flow into the tip. Just as with regular speed paints and paints in general, the different pens and colors are not exactly the same. In my experience, some of the pens took about 2 minutes to be ready, others less than 1 minute. In this example, with the yellow Speedpaint marker, it took about 2 minutes before the tip was completely loaded with paint. While we wait for that, I will go back to what I said in the beginning of the video. I am not sponsored by the Army Painter, but I use Army Painter products simply because I think they are some of the best products available. Another thing is that it's a local company, very close to where I live. So, Army Painter, if you are watching this video, I am just about 1 hour drive away. If you, like me, would like to buy the Speedpaint marker starter set here, it will cost somewhere around 45 euros or $60. And then you might ask, why are we still looking at a Speedpaint marker trying to be filled with paint? Well, it's just to show the real time of how long it takes. I don't think it's really long to wait, but of course you can't just pick up a pen that you haven't used before and start to use it right away. When you have filled the tip with paint, as I'm about to do here, you can easily leave the pen for a while and get back to it, and it will still be ready to paint. So put the cap back on so it won't dry out, and put it with the tip downwards when you store the pen, and then you should be able to pick it up and just start painting the next time you want to use it. I'm not sure how long it will stay ready, but I left some of the Speedpaint markers overnight and came back the next day and they were just ready there. But now I have picked up a model that I started painting with regular speed paints, and now I will finish it with the Speedpaint markers, beginning with the yellow one here. And it looks very similar to the yellow regular speed paint color, and of course they are also complete color matches. Of course you have to get used to painting with a marker instead of a brush. In my last video, I decided to use no brushes at all. If you haven't seen that video, check it out. I paint 5 models without any brushes, some of it with markers. But the tip is pointy enough to get into small recesses. It's not a miracle tool. If you really want to paint details, you'll still need a detail brush. But all in all, I think it's capable of getting into most of the details and recesses on a miniature like this one. After the yellow color, I have prepared the Grape Lord Gray. So let's paint the outer cape with gray. And again, the color really flows nicely out of the pen and the tip. It's easy to control. I didn't experience any color splashes or color dripping out from the pen down on the table or anything, so that is very convenient. On the larger areas of a miniature like the cape here, they are not faster than regular brushes, but of course you have to take into consideration that you must use different brushes of different sizes, and you also have to clean them afterwards and use different colors with the same brushes. In that case, the Speedpaint markers here seem very fast to use. Just have them next to you and pick up the colors you want to use. You can use several colors at the same time. You don't have to reactivate them. And the more colors you have ready, the faster the painting process will be. I use a palette bone Speedpaint marker here, and when I did that, I thought of some other miniatures that I had almost finished. And then I decided to go back with the Speedpaint markers just to add some details, clean up a few areas, and maybe hit a spot that I forgot in the first place. And for that, the Speedpaint markers are excellent. I really find it extremely helpful that you can go back with a Speedpaint marker just to clean up or improve a miniature that you have already painted. You can add layers, shadows, highlights with the Speedpaint markers afterwards. I didn't really think of that kind of use for the Speedpaint markers, but I must say that while painting, I got several other miniatures out and started to improve them with the Speedpaint markers. And I really think the markers are excellent for that purpose. Now back to the main model, and I have prepared the blue Speedpaint marker. Again, from the first time the tip touches the model, you can see how the paint richly flows out of the pen. And it's a joy to paint with. When painting, there were times where I thought I would really have liked to do this with a brush instead. So there are cases where a brush, of course, still will be my preferred tool. But depending on the model, the Speedpaint markers will make not all, but a great deal of the work you need to be done. Going from the blue Speedpaint marker to the blood red one here, same impression, really nice paint flow, a very clear, vibrant color. The model here is prepared with a white primer, and then I have washed it with a thin black wash. That is how I usually prefer to make my models ready for paint, and I had already done that. So I decided just to see how the Speedpaint markers would look with that particular primer and wash underneath. Again, I decided to go back to some of my previous models and enhance them, in this case with the blood red. And you can really see that there is a difference when you add the paint from the markers. This model had a few spots where I was not completely satisfied with the result. So I filled up the yellow Speedpaint marker and went in to improve. After that, I thought it was time to test out the metallic Speedpaint silver color. And it's exactly the same process as with the other Speedpaint markers. Shake it, pop off the cap, and just pump and push and wait for the paint to flow. And you can see here that it's already flowing from the pen and into the tip. And the metallic silver here is just as capable as the other colors. It's a really shiny and bright silver color. So I decided to paint the armor of the model here with silver. While I painted, I realized that it was really too shiny, at least for this model. It's very, very shiny and clear, and I have to find a way to dull that down. I could have used a regular wash, of course, but I looked in the Speedpaint Markers starter set and tried to find a solution there. And the solution was the Gravelord Gray Speedpaint Marker. I just used the gray to add some shadows and some layers that would dirty or dull down the very, very shiny silver. And that is another kind of use of the Speedpaint Markers. I have also seen some painters paint the metallic silver and then add yellow and make it look like gold. If you decide to try the Speedpaint Markers, I have a few things that I think you should be aware of. First thing, keep the cap on the Speedpaint Markers. Don't leave them to dry. And also store them with the tip down. Then a final thing. It is possible to refill the Speedpaint Markers by unscrewing the pen with the paint and just fill it with the matching Speedpaint color. I haven't tried that, but I experienced 3 or 4 of my Speedpaint Markers coming out of the packaging not screwed tight enough, and I fear if you pick the markers up and down fast, they could loosen and spill paint all over. Of course, I would like to avoid that. With that being said, the model here is finished, completely painted with Speedpaint Markers, and it's time for my final opinion about them. The Speedpaint Markers starter set will cost you about 45 euros or $60. For that you get 10 Speedpaint Markers, including extra tips, and they will hold somewhere around 1/3 of the paint in a regular Speedpaint bottle, so you get significantly less paint for the price. But could you buy the Speedpaint Markers and then forget all about brushes? My short answer is no. I would still like to paint with brushes. There are still types of miniatures and painting styles where you definitely would prefer brushes. But the Speedpaint Markers are a great addition, a great tool to have, along with the brushes. They really live up to the speed part of painting. When you have the brushes next to you, you can easily and very fast switch from color to color. And depending on the miniature, some miniatures are meant to be painted with Speedpaint Markers, and then maybe a final few touches with your regular brushes. Another thing that I discovered is how convenient the Speedpaint Markers are when you have to finish already painted models, add details, layers and shadows, and just make a better paint job. I painted this miniature quite a lot faster than I would have done with only brushes. And maybe it's not a question whether you want to use brushes or Speedpaint Markers. The answer might be that you should consider using brushes and Speedpaint Markers because they work really well together and they have different capabilities. Thanks a lot for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed the content. If you did, please like and subscribe to the channel, and I hope you'll join me for future videos.